According to Socrates, justice is intimately connected with fairness, the idea that people should get what they deserve. Aristotle believed that people are separated by dramatic differences in their natural capacities, so much so that while some are qualified to rule or to participate in ruling, others who comprise the bulk of humankind are fit only to be ruled. The 1995 Constitution is the supreme law in the country, and any law or custom that is in conflict with it is null and void to the extent of the inconsistency. Chapter 8 and Articles 126 to 151 provide the comprehensive description of the structure and system of the administration of justice in Uganda. The general structure of Uganda's legal sector appears as follows: Ministry of Justice and Constitutional Affairs, the Judiciary, Judicial Service Commission, the Law Reform Commission, the Electoral Commission, the Uganda Land Commission, Uganda Registration Services Bureau, Uganda Human Rights Commission, the Law Council, the Law Development Center. Uganda is bound by a set of international, regional, and local laws which are tailored to guarantee the proper functioning of the judiciary. Article 14.1 of the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights states that all persons shall be equal before the courts and tribunals, and that in the determination of any criminal charge against him or of his rights and obligations in a suit of law, everyone shall be entitled to a fair and public hearing by a competent, independent, and impartial tribunal established by law. The United Nations Human Rights Committee, which is the body of independent experts that monitors the implementation of the ICCPR, specifies that the independence of courts comprises the manner in which judges are appointed, the qualifications for appointment, and the duration of their terms of office, the condition governing promotion, transfer, and cessation of their functions, and the actual independence of the judiciary from the executive branch and the legislature. Uganda has ratified this covenant. In Uganda, one of the most fundamental institutions in the administration of justice is the Judicial Service Commission, and it's going to be our primary focus during this talk show discussion on what its mandate and functions in the judicial sector are. Join me and the Public Relations Officer of the Commission, Mr. Sekaja Ronald, both here on all our digital and online social network platforms, including the NTV VDTV app. And thank you, our viewers, for joining us this late night evening. We are here from the Comprise International Conference Center. I'm Karagar Baldwins, and this is NTV. Very delighted indeed for us to engage into this phenomenon, the judicial system of our country, and of course the entire panorama of the justice system across this nation. And this discussion is already online. And let me just, before even I go into the depth of the discussion, cite out some of the comments on Facebook. We've posted there a question which you can help us just interact with us as we proceed on to this discussion. We have asked, what do you know about the Uganda Judicial Service Commission? And Luwa Hamza says, for Uganda to always judge the rich innocent, then the poor guilty, that's all. And I believe my panelist here indeed will respond to that particular conception of the Judicial Service Commission. Then secondly, Wawai Patrick said to speed up with court proceedings and to make sure that there's avoidance of corruption and treat everybody equally. And then Kushru says to reduce the price of justice, make it affordable to the poor, and simply just don't auction justice. You are welcome indeed, and indeed on all our online platforms, of course, Facebook, Twitter, on VDT app, and on YouTube, and right here on set on our TV station. I'm joined by the representative from the Judicial Service Commission. Indeed, it's a great burden and honors that you have, Mr. Sekaja Ronald, to be able to carry through this discussion representing the judiciary. That is, of course, all the courts and the entire judicial service system. You're welcome.
Thank you so much, my brother Baldwin.
Yes.
It is an honor, and of course it is humbling to have so much on our shoulders, but it should be easy because we know what the system is, we have the laws, and we operate under the rule of law. So it is easy to know our confines, we know where we start, we know where we end, so we can be able to navigate through successfully and let the other the members of the public appreciate what it is, what is it that is expected, where are the weaknesses, where do we need, as institutions dealing with administration of justice, where do we need to put more strength, where are we faring well, are people really having confidence in what is going on? Those are all issues that I think we can be able to interrogate, learn from the public, and be able to shape up, or also be appreciated where we are doing well.
Okay, fantastic. So let's go straight in. What is the Judicial Service Commission, and what is your mandate, and what are you trying to accomplish through this particular establishment of the Judicial Service Commission?
Well, thank you very much. Judicial Service Commission, of course, came into existence when the 1995 Constitution came in place. Of course, we had a different Judicial Service Commission before the 1995 Constitution. Of course, the old one comprised of the Chief Justice as the head of the Judicial Service Commission. And the problem with the Constituent Assembly was this kind of Judicial Service Commission, which is composed of the Chief Justice and other justices, how will they be able to be independent in handling matters that are within their confines? For example, are you going to be a judge in your own case? You are the Chief Justice, then you have to ensure you appoint the judicial officers, you promote them. So I think they decided to go for independence, get an independent commission that is totally separated from judiciary.
That's your vision on the
yes,
screen that,
certainly,
okay.
certainly. So that when the commission is doing its work, it oversees what the arm of government called judiciary is doing. So when the Constitution was passed, we now had the Judicial Service Commission established, composed of 9 members, very able members. Like we have 2 members that represent the Uganda Law Society. They make their independent decision and choose who to represent them. Yes. We have 2 representatives who are members of the public. The president appoints them, but they should be non-lawyers. So you get the people's perspective, you get the ordinary citizen having an eye and ear at the commission. Already those we have 4. Then we have the Public Service Commission, which also nominates...
Before we get into the actual structure, what is the mission? What is the real setup kind of strategic intervention you're trying to achieve in the entire government or governance infrastructure of justice as the Judicial Service Commission? Because you saw the litany of institutions that we lay out based on how the judicial system is. So what are you trying to accomplish, basically, before we come to the judicial structure?
Well, certainly, I think when you look at the Constitution, what we are looking at is you see Judicial Service Commission as a bridge between the public and justice. Justice is a little bit bigger than judiciary. But when you look at the Constitution, we act as the link between the ordinary citizen and this institution where people access justice. So how we relate is, one, you have to appoint the judicial officers to be in place to be able to make the decisions. You have to discipline these judicial officers where they misconduct themselves. And then 3, you have to receive the feedback. Are people raising complaints? Are they making any recommendations regarding administration of justice? Is judiciary working well? People are free to raise issues and concerns. That comes to Judicial Service Commission. Then, if people do not know the procedures and the systems of how they can access justice, who is going to tell them? That is the mandate of Judicial Service Commission. So we go out as teachers of the law on administration of justice.
So you have your mission statement.
Yes, certainly. So we reach out to the public countrywide, those in prison, at sub-county level, we are on the media, we engage with the public, we get call-ins, we have toll-free numbers. So when you look at Judicial Service Commission in brief, we are just there, the bridge in between, that we can get information from the judiciary When the judges tell us that people do not come to court, they never follow up their cases. When we reach out to the people, we tell them, you should be coming. You should follow up your cases. So when we get to the other side, they say, but these people are corrupt. They never give us receipts, we pay money. Now that's when the question of discipline comes in. And as a whole, because we advise government on the improvement of administration of justice, that's how when we hear in police things are not moving on well, we come in and be able to advise government that we think the best way to go to improve administration of justice is we should increase on inspection of what police is doing. If we find, like in Zimbabwe, one time, we went there on our field visits and we found people had to take bail money. You know, bail is you want to come out of court, go home, come from your home to conclude the case. So you had to go and bank in Masaka. And then you get a receipt from Masaka and you come back to Zimbabwe and be released. And we thought that wasn't justice. I have got bail, I have the cash, but I need to travel so many. So we come up with the write-ups and communicate to the different institutions that there's a problem in Zimbabwe, people are not receiving justice, it is against their human rights, the person is free, he has the money, but you detain him because of the length in establishing where to deposit the money. Those are the issues. We were in Kabong last week, and there are also issues there. So we write to the IGP and say, IGP, there's a problem in Kabong. I think you have to take action. So that's how we relate with these other justice agencies because of that role of being able to advise government on how we improve on administration of justice. And not only that, the terms and conditions of service of the judicial officers. Very interesting. On record, we have the commission. This is the 5th commission. And on record, the judicial service has been making recommendations, and we think government is going in the right direction. We believe as the conditions become better and better, I think the responsibility now upon the judiciary as an institution, as an arm of government, is wait, we have to be productive. Because if there is improvement here on the environment we work in, certainly accountability is they will ask, what do you have to show for the improvement? So that's how we engage. We are not perfect as angels, but we learn and continue to broaden our base. We used to reach out very little to very few people. You see now where we are. Now we are really widening our base so that we can have as many Ugandans as possible to know where to go just in case things don't go well the way we expect them to be in judiciary and other institutions. Okay,
great. Just to get clarity, what is the leadership in terms of personnel of that commission itself? How is it appointed? And who is it accountable to? Is it accountable to the public? Is it accountable to the appointer of that commission? So the accountability bit, and who is in that structure, in the leadership structure right now? Apparently, it's a 9-member commission, but you can elaborate on it.
Well, thank you, Bovins. Now, in the commission, of course, the 9 members include the chairperson. We have Justice Benjamin Kabito as the chairperson currently, and Justice Faith Monda as the vice chairperson. But of course, you know, when they appoint, there's a president who appoints these 2 members of the commission, chairperson and vice chairperson.
I think the names have been
listed. Yes, they have listed them. But you see the qualifications, for you to meet that level, to be appointed at that level, you have to have the capacity to be a justice of the Supreme Court. So the president's appointment spectrum is not so big. We don't have so many people that to choose from. So and at that level, you've made a name for yourself and you want to keep your reputation. So I believe by the time you are appointed at that level, there is so much at stake. You want to do what is right. You want to keep the track record you've had all along. Then we have the the representatives of the Uganda Law Society. The president has no hand. They sit alone, make a decision, choose 2 of themselves, and forward the name to the president. And the president will appoint them. So you see the accountability. They come with the entire law society on their shoulders, and they have to account because it's the eye and the ear of the lawyers at the Judicial Service Commission. Then,
okay.
Yes.
Yeah. So now the president has been complaining about duplication of effort, so many proliferated authorities, commissions, agencies, and he feels that there are expenses which are irrelevant and no substantive. I hope this is not one of them. So you need to justify what are some of the achievements that the commission has done. I just noticed that you were given about 2 billion. Rather, you were given. You had money payments, a budget amounting to about 2.18 billion. You spent 1.9 billion on, of course, non-wages, and on wages about 732 million Uganda shillings, all that. So somebody will ask, what are the achievements you can substantiate? Just about 3 of them, so that as we spill over to the next discussion, to the next segment.
Well, thank you very much. I think our achievements are visible. Appointing judicial officers is a very difficult process. You don't look at only professional proficiency, but you also look at the character. You do research, you put in research, try to dig around people to know how they have been moving. And there's no single appointment of a judicial officer in the country that goes outside the Judicial Service Commission.
So the Judicial Service Commission is the one which appoints.
Yes,
okay,
for every
official.
Judicial officer at a lower cadre, it's direct
That's
appointment.
including judges, magistrates.
No, we have the chief magistrates downwards.
Chief magistrate.
Yes, it's direct appointment. Then we have the judges of the High Court, justices of appeal, and the Supreme Court, including the Chief Justice. The Commission makes the selection, does all the would-be donkey work to ensure that you have these names, you've done your research, you've interviewed them, and you think they are right persons, then you recommend to the president that this is the one we think should be the Chief Justice of the country. So the president, he also has a bigger machinery than us. He has ISO, he has ESO, so many. So when he's also satisfied, he will also push the list to Parliament. And Parliament will also be able to vet, and then the approval will be done. And then we have the judicial officers. So for all of the judicial officers that have been appointed, it has been the work of Judicial Service Commission. And where we are going, one of the other achievements that is so crucial related with that is we have always had a vacuum of sorts. The Chief Justice term comes to an end, and we don't have a Chief Justice. But if you have been noticing and following the news, we still have a Deputy Chief Justice. But are you aware that we already have a replacement before the term comes to an end? So one of the real targets of Judicial Service Commission, the current commission, we want to have timely recruitment. We don't want to waste time in resources, and we have gaps, we create crises. So I think that is an achievement when I look at it that way. Then the other one we have achieved is the engagement with the public has increased enormously. I think on average, I was looking through the records, we have at least 500 minimum call-ins, substantive calls in, where people have real issues against judicial officers, real recommendations, averagely per month, on toll-free lines. Now, that goes a long way to show the engagement. And we are not satisfied that that's enough, but we are trying now to broaden it. Government has done us some good. We had a 5 billion increment this financial year on our resources. Maybe that explains why we are here. So we can
probably, and you're going to answer why actually the other officers are striking on that particular front. When you have so, Rona, pretty well explained exactly what the Judicial Service Commission and some of the achievements. I just want us to go for a break. Then we are going to delve into more rocky and murky waters. The the issues of the strike, the influence of the politician on the system itself, and of course on the commission. So thanks our viewers for keeping with us. Let me just go for a short break and we'll come back just to continue with this discussion. Thanks our viewers for keeping with us. We're discussing judicial matters, the Uganda Judicial Service Commission, what its role is, and how you as a public or a public person, you can, whether a person in the public realm, a citizen of any kind in this nation, can be able to capitalize on its responsibility to serve you and of course to serve the entire nation in enhancing the judicial service system in this country. And right now, let me just get back to our panelists. Let him help us understand what the actual detail of the relationship between the court system and the judicial service system, the Judicial Service Commission, is, and how you are helping to enhance that particular, the standards and the status of the court system in this country.
Well, thank you so much, my brother Baldwin.
And I think on the screen we'll show you the court system structure, just a second, because it's led by the Supreme Court, and then down next to it is the Court of Appeal and the Constitutional Court, which are interchangeable in different setups, and then the High Court, and then which has 5 divisions, and then you have subordinate courts, which include the Chief Magistrate Court, the Industrial Court, Magistrates Grade 1 and 2, and local council courts. So just for purposes of clarity of what the court system I'm talking about. Yes.
Well, thank you very much. Of course, the relationship regarding the courts you've mentioned, one is in the creation of those courts themselves, the personnel. We've already elaborated what we go through to get them there. And then the environment where they work, the terms, the conditions of service is also our issue. But also, we are the educators. We are supposed to carry out judicial education. Educating the judicial officers, giving them the information. So we meet them. We meet them in various, in their various areas where they operate. We have an interface, continuous, between the Judicial Service Commission and the judicial officers, from the least to the highest. And the intention is we want to own our officers. They are not detached. They are our officers. We need to hear what are the challenges they are facing on the ground. Where is it that we should put emphasis? How can we be able to better their performance? So we also monitor their performance. We get information from their supervisors, how they are doing. We also go and have our own inspections. Without notice, we go there and see how they are doing the work. We ask them questions. We find the challenges. We are able to make recommendations. We write to Judiciary where we find their issues that should be looked at. Yeah,
that's just some of the statistics of the justices who are, or the judicial officials who are selected by the Judicial Service Commission in the different realms of of course, the Justice of the Supreme Court, the number 5 of them have been appointed, the Justice of the Court of Appeal. That is just the outline. Yes.
And certainly more are coming because the process is ongoing to get the judges of the High Court and the Court of Appeal. So I think very soon, God willing, we shall see something happening a little bigger. So we are talking about the relationship. So apart from the performance question, then we also have the career progression. Because if you are going to promote somebody, you need to know how the person is performing. You need to have a fair way of judging. Why should this one go and this one stay? So it
sounds like you're the patrons of the judicial or the justice system. If I use that simplistic word, would that
patron? Well, you see, judiciary is a full and entire arm of government, not the third, not the second, not even third.
Okay.
That one doesn't exist in the Constitution.
It's a separate
It is a separate arm of government. Yes. As you see executive, you see legislature, so we have judiciary. So the operation is at that level. Now, Judicial Service Commission, why it has a unique role.
Patron administrator, if I use the administration?
You can say overseer,
okay,
because we oversee what judiciary is doing. So we can be able to advise government, we can be able to effect changes, we can be able to make timely recruitment, we can be able to do a disciplinary function regarding the operation of judiciary. So we really support in our relationship that independence of judiciary. That's why we haven't told the public that if you lost a case, come to Judicial Service Commission. We don't do that. The judicial officer is free to decide the way he or she understands the law and the facts. Now, if you are dissatisfied with their decision, you appeal to the next court. What we are handling at Judicial Service Commission is the misconduct
of the judicial officers.
Okay. Why do you come late to work? Why are you always absent? Why do you keep adjourning your cases all the time? Why is it that the cases you are handling have taken over 2 years? What is the problem? So those are the issues.
Yeah, and on that note, let me just play this clip, because recently there was a strike. So I'm befuddled to understand what the commission is there for, that it goes to the extent that your officers rebel against you and just put down their tools. Let me just play this video clip to help us get into the frame of that question. Yeah.
On the 22nd of July 2017, judicial officers across the country converged at the High Court and took a ballot vote, a secret ballot vote, where they unanimously voted industrial action as a bargaining tool to address priorities in a memorandum. So,
why did that action take place when the Judicial Service Commission was in place? Does it communicate that actually you're not as effective, you are not as influential to those judicial officers, because that's the Uganda Judicial Officers Association representative? And guys went on strike. It was literally going to run the whole month. Actually, they had talked about 30 days, and of course, the president usually comes in, and he came in, and that's when the waters settled.
Well, I think the issue is...
So help us justify, because the officers are striking.
I think the issue is, what does Judicial Service Commission have to do in respect to... Because the issue was about the conditions of work, the salaries they are paid, they want to do more on land justice because the entire country is crying, cases of land are not ending. They're saying we need vehicles to reach there because the law is you must reach down there. So how do I reach down there without the vehicle? But the issue is Judicial Service Commission. You see, the day they had that meeting, I was the one who was sent on behalf of the chairperson. And I relayed the information. On behalf
of the chairperson
of Judicial Service Commission.
All right.
Yes. Of course, they didn't listen to me much because the terms we had raised. Because I think by the time they went on strike, already the Judicial Service Commission, together with the Health Service Commission, together with the Education Service Commission, and the Public Service Commission had sat. And the arrangement was, let us have a single spine salary or terms of condition structure across board. So there are figures that were recommendations. Remember, we don't decide. Judicial Service Commission has no capacity to say you must pay this. The Constitution says review and make recommendations on terms and the conditions of service of judicial officers. So when we sat with when the commission sat with the other commissions, they came up with a single spine salary structure. So when the officers had their meeting, I was sent to go and let them know that, by the way, there is already something going on. So when I took the information and I tried to show them what it says, I think the figures we are presenting were extremely low to what the officers expected. But the point was, even at the time of striking, the commission had made efforts, and actually the recommendations had been forwarded to the Minister of Finance. And by the time I went to speak to the judicial officers, that had been forwarded to the Minister of Public Service to give it a last look, and then government will be able implement. So what happened is when they decided to take the industrial action, we can't sue them because they are saying it is our right. It is constitutional.
Of course.
Of course, you can say, but as judicial officers, was industrial action the best in the circumstances? We have accused people, they have their rights, you know, and somebody can't be released on bail because the court is closed. Who else will be able to deliver justice if the custodians of justice cannot? So that was the only issue we had with them, that we can engage, but do you think that is the best that you should have done? So after the industrial action, still Judicial Service Commission went on, and the chairperson was able to meet various leaders in the country, and the commission was able again to incorporate, not to wholesale, but to listen. They invited the leaders of Judicial Officers Association. They had a meeting, and then we were able to agree on some parameters.
Yeah.
So
and I'll play later on the clip of when the Chief Justice is giving the appeal to the association to make sure that...
please, because the process was ongoing.
Yeah, the good thing it has been a news, this is a current affairs news
certainly,
issue.
And where we are going, of course, I think we are moving
because the strike has been
in the right direction, because I think the ultimate goal is we also want to see judiciary operating at that level of independence, as in separation of powers.
Yes, I'm
and
coming
I think
to
that's
that.
where we are going.
Let me first now deal with the public, because you make a claim that actually you're helping the public and you're engaged with the public.
Yes.
There is a survey that was done by the Afrobarometer team in Uganda, led by Hashi Consult. It interviewed over 2,400 adult Ugandans in May 2015. So it says that more than 2/3, 69% of Ugandans say the level of corruption in the country increased during the 12 months preceding the survey, including 51% who say it increased a lot. Okay, that's pretty about corruption. But about 1 in 3 Ugandans say that most of all officials in the office of the president are corrupt. Then citizen assessments, these are all things, but I want to show you exactly what about what justice is indicated. It shows that there is very less trust. About 68% of the people have less trust in the judicial system, and they have less access to, the law practitioners, the lawyers, to back up them when they need a court process to be done. And I would expect that perhaps the Judicial Service Commission is ensuring that there is a curbing of this corruption in the judicial system. There is a cleanup of the perception of the judicial system, and of course the trust in the judicial system. And Ugandans actually, for truth to be told, they have less trust in the judicial system. I don't know what you're doing about it.
Well, I think depending on the research we are looking at, because as Justice, Law and Order sector, we also commissioned a survey. And the report we have is we are not where we want to be, but there has been an improvement in the confidence that people have in the judicial system. Well, if you talk about 60 and we have a 40, if we were on 20 and we are now coming up to 40, it is the right direction. But we still need a lot to do to get to where we would also want to be. There are many factors. I can assure you that I don't think the IGP, for example, can tell his officers, can you go and be corrupt on the street? I don't think the Chief Justice can say, okay, now go and take bribes. This issue begins in our homes. And I tell people, you send a child to buy something, the balance, he buys sweets, and you say, where is the balance that I bought sweets? Who gave you the authority to buy the sweets? And that's what goes on everywhere. So you can do the research, you can make the appointment, you have the officer you are sure she's going to do a good job, but inside the heart we have chaos. So what we do, we put interventions that make it extremely risky for the judicial officer to engage in such a practice. So, and it is multidimensional. You can't pick out one point. As we try to tighten the disciplinary action, we are saying the commission, for example, we have part-time members of the commission. But we need to have full-time members. We only have one, the chairperson who is full-time. So they have other work they're doing. So when will you get them to sit and be able to handle these on the cases, the complaints? Because when you delay to process the complaints, the public is losing confidence. If you can handle these complaints faster, then you can be sure that the public say, okay, there's a problem, I will go to Judicial Service Commission. In less than 6 months, I will have a decision, both to the judicial officers and the public. I think that's...
The public has a way it contacts you, because
Yes.
I think I came across your toll-free lines.
Correct.
And I believe we're going to have them on the screen, just so in case people get to call these numbers and they have any issue to raise from the judicial service experience they can actually call you. Yeah, the numbers are just right there.
On any network, because they are toll-free.
So there's no expense on the person's side. So please, if you're out there and you have an issue you need to raise to the Judicial Service Commission, there are those numbers, and you don't have to have even airtime to call.
In fact, not only the airtime, because after you've called free of charge, we get the information, we find it credible, the team comes to investigate. When we want to hear that case at Judicial Service Commission, the commission foots the bill of the person who complained. We give you where you stay, accommodation, feeding. We give you 2 lawyers to stand by you so that the case comes out properly. And then we transport you back to your home. So absolutely the service is free from the first telephone call to the end. And the law is good. The law does not permit the judicial officer to sue the person who raised the complaint when the complaint at the end is not successful. So that should be able we alert the public. Don't bring issues in bad faith, because these are brothers, these are parents, and that job. I've ever been a judicial officer. It is a very delicate job. Every day you are deciding, you are creating enemies, whether you want it or not, because there's no draw game really. So that's where I appeal to the public. If you have an issue and it's a genuine one, please raise it. Some of the issues people raise also is because they don't know some things. So we advise them as they call. I mean, this man has decided the case in the wrong way. Can you imagine? He must have eaten. We say, okay, before we look at how he must have eaten, can you be able to go on appeal if you feel dissatisfied? So some of them get those issues calmed down as they call in. So you are right. We need the people to keep calling, and I think we need to reach out to them more and more and more. Okay, great. Let me go for a break, and then we'll deal with that political question. There's a feeling that we have an overwhelming hand from the executive over the judiciary, and the judiciary cannot move and cannot be credible about its efforts unless the executive actually permits. And let's go for a break, then we'll come and continue that discussion. So the judicial system here, of course, the Judicial Service Commission, and of course has been described of what its mandate is. It has about about 6 core values: independence, impartiality, integrity, propriety, equity, competence, and diligence. But let's look at this clip when the strike was kind of concluded, and then I inquire from our panelists about the truth of the independence of the judiciary from the executive arm.
I said, let your officials sit with our officials and harmonize these figures. Because we were having a figure of about 13 billion shillings and they had 69 billion, so there must be a problem. They sat here in Mr. Kagole's office. Mr. Kagole, I believe, where is he? Our PS and the chief registrar and their team, together with the people from Treasury. And this was brought down to 14.3 billion shillings from 69. So we thought now the problem was over. When we met the Prime Minister, the Minister of State for Finance informed us that now this harmonization had been done, this bill will now proceed to Cabinet. When we met the President on Thursday, there were still voices from Treasury saying, no, it can't proceed because there are some other hidden costs which we don't know. Until the President had said, no, let it proceed, and we can always deal. If it can't start now, it can start next year, but the principle must be agreed. So this struggle, I'm telling you, is not about to end. We have just to be vigilant. We must be together. If you take a different point of view, that's fine. But this harassment and intimidations of others with a different view will not help us. Because when they know that we are divided, they will exploit those cracks between us and ourselves. So I appeal to you. I appeal to you to be calm, to be measured, to be as sober as a judge, as they say, and let us go back to our courts. Let's administer justice. The whole world has seen, and let us give our leaders a chance to negotiate peacefully, but forcefully and strongly with the other arms of government. Let's identify the positive elements in the other arms of government and we deal with them. We are not going to carry along everybody. We are not going to get everything we want. It's not going to be possible, but as I don't know who has said, the Baganda say, Nyamantono Okayanange Munkwawa, isn't it?
And on that note, indeed, I'll invite you to call in live. We're going to have our phone line for NTV running down here on the screen, and then you participate in this discussion. As Mr. Ronald Esekaja responds to this matter of concern, you are not independent as you claim. You would wish to be independent, but you're not.
Well, thank you.
Because you can see that the Chief Justice is really lamenting about the power plays and the juggling behind the scenes that are pulling him to the back in order to have any way for the judicial system to operate effectively.
Well, I think there are two issues. One, as Judicial Service Commission, as we said, we are different from Judiciary. But talking to Judiciary, whether Judiciary is independent, I think the framework is on the ground. When you look at Article 128 of the Constitution, in the Constitution, independence is elaborate, so clear. Judiciary is a self-accounting institution, meaning the reference, what that implies is they can directly submit their budget proposals to the Minister of Finance. Of course, now what happens, they go through the Minister of Justice. I don't want to answer that question why, but the point is the framework, the legal framework is right. And quoting what the Chief Justice has been saying, the President says, no, it has to continue. We may not do it the same, at the same time, but we can continue. I think I want us to appreciate that judiciary is not where it wants to be. But the effort now we see is we are looking at that direction. And
okay, now I just apologize for being a bit. Let's get a call in because I think I've invited the calls pretty early and they are also coming in. Yes, good evening. This is NTV Live.
Yes, hello, good evening.
Yes, nice to hear your name and where calling from, sir.
I'm called Musisi John.
Yes, very glad. Your comment or question?
I'm calling from Kampala here.
Yes, please.
Now, okay, I have an issue which happened to me in 2016. A judge, okay, the lower one, magistrate.
Yes.
The magistrate ruled, okay, I have a chibanja.
Yeah.
Then someone came and said he's the owner of the land. Then he didn't. They told me they call it ex parte judgment.
Ex parte judgment. Okay.
Huh?
Yeah.
Huh? It's called the ex parte judgment. Then this judge, that one lower judge, magistrate, I think, or chief magistrate. So he gave an ex parte judgment in just 2 months, and that man went to the registrar execution. He got that one which goes to evict. He got
eviction order.
Eviction order?
Yes, and they didn't even, because they told me that there is a process where they say, show cause why you should be not evicted. So they didn't do all that. So they gave, the order was saying, you give vacant to the house. Of course, it wasn't his house. But when the police officers came, they demolished everything, and also my property, everything. In fact, right now I'm still in court, but now I'm asking the judicial officer, can that judge who gave an ex parte judgment in only 2 months to me, and I didn't even appear because he received the court that he served me and I didn't receive, which was not true. Of course, we went to the judge and to another judge who overturned it. My question is,
please,
my advice, which I want an advice.
Okay, all right.
Am I still in time for me to petition court? Your commission to petition the commission for that judge who gave an ex parte judgment that I am homeless up to now. Thank you very much.
Very understandable, and I think you need the commission to help redress your matter. Have you seen the toll-free numbers that we put on the screen? Would you wish us to flash them back on the screen so that you can copy them and then you call the commission tomorrow? Okay, he's off, but I think that's a help.
Yeah, yes, we get the point.
All right.
Yes, we get the point. And that's the...
somebody else on line? Just a second. Hello? 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 All right, so people are still calling in. As you're responding to that, let me just give you some of the feedback on Facebook. Mwanje William says that the judiciary is the source of justice in this world. Yes, good evening.
Hello.
Yes, speak up a little bit louder, or I think my studio needs to get more volume. Yes, gentlemen, good evening. Your name and where you're calling from?
I am called Dixon Wagaba. I'm calling from Gayaza.
Nice to hear you, Dixon. Yes.
Yeah,
your question or comment?
Yeah, my question. My question is about salary.
Yes.
The salary structure. I wanted to comment on the salary structure.
Yes, as briefly as you can, because we are time bad, my dear.
Yeah, that however much the structure is not streamlined, but the whole system is not streamlined already.
Okay, thank you indeed. I apologize, I cannot continue with your call because you're a bit slow and we're time bad. We need to get traction on this discussion and we have a few minutes to wrap up from here. So I was just giving you feedback from Mwanje William, who says that the judiciary is a source of justice in this world by the virtue of its establishment. Now, when the judiciary errs from its expectations and we are seeking for debate or thought and beliefs from the lay people as to what should be the judicial service to the public, then I pray to God the Almighty to delete Uganda from the planet Earth. Really pretty pessimistic. Then this last one, ensure equality among the poor and the rich. Also work independently, not under the NRM pressure, the government. So I'm going to take 2 more calls, then you respond to all those and we wrap up. Yes, good evening. I can hear you calling in.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm called Chris Chitukumpeire.
Yes, nice to hear you, Chris.
I'm calling from Kasese.
Wow, nice to hear you. Thanks for calling from Kasese. Yes?
What we have all to be aware of is that every case in court has a number of people who feed on it. The lawyers, the police, the prosecutors, they are even the masqueraders. So when you say that the judiciary is corrupt, I don't know whether you are comparing all those. And then I feel that the Chief Justice will have a sigh of relief when LC1s are in place.
The LC1 courts?
LC1 courts are going to help the Chief Justice because there are many cases where in court which shouldn't be there. They should be settled by LC1. That is my submission, and good night.
Okay, thank you so much for your call-in. And I think his point is a little bit inferential. He says that there are so many people who are eating off the system of justice, implying you might be parasites. And perhaps he might be insinuating that the judicial system, the Uganda Judicial Commission, Uganda Judicial Service Commission might be a parasite also. So you need to clarify that. Okay, another caller. Hello?
Hello?
Yes, nice to hear you, gentlemen. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Yes, I'm calling from Karamoja.
Wow, nice to know that Karamoja is watching. Yes, your question or comment, sir?
Yeah, mine is who presides over district service commissions?
Who presides over district service commissions? Okay.
Mine is I'm happy that you came to Kabong.
Wow, okay. Good feedback. Thank you indeed. Over
who presides over district service commission in their activities?
Okay. Thank you so much. Nice, rather question, very clear and succinct. So, thank you indeed. Let me close off the lines. So, Ronald, issues to just wrap up with, of course, as you respond to them. One, there is a magistrate kind of decision which was done, and the person was given an ex parte judgment.
Ex parte judgment.
Yes, so you need to explain that, and then there is an issue of, just as the president complained that there are so many commissions, there are so many authorities, and these are simply parasitical establishments to feed off the spillages of money and benefits from them. And then lastly, who presides over the District Service Commission?
District Service Commission. Well, we thank the callers, those who sent in the messages too. I think
and others are appreciative.
Yeah, they're appreciating. When Kabonga was telling you, so you've got a witness there. I think the issue is about the parasites. You see, administration of justice is not a one-man show. If it is a criminal case, police will be involved, DPP will be involved, court will be involved, and then prison may also be involved.
Even
and
police.
And yes, and the public are also involved. If you don't come to give evidence in court, we can't have the judge manufacture evidence. That's the point. And the danger with the administration of justice is if one player disorganizes the process, the rest can't redeem it. For example, if the prosecutor sanctions a bogus file, you know that the judge will have nothing to do, because whatever evidence is going to be brought has nothing to do with the real substance of the matter. So it will fail. If it is the police compromising with investigations, it affects the entire case. That's why we do things in a chain. And I think this issue of also handling salaries in a kind of single spine is also advantageous, because if you make one group a little better than other groups, then you get challenges. We have to build it together. I think the parasites he's talking about is you may find that the court is good, but in that particular area, the state attorney is corrupt. I think that's what is showing, that you may find sections of the participants in the chain of administration of justice not at par. They are not on the same page. And I think that's where all of us have to wake up the different institutions and ensure we can have harmony to have justice flowing, from police flowing all through. The ex parte judgment is not a problem. Ex parte, it means the decision was made without you. And he has rightly said, he was told that he had been served. Service means, here are the documents, you have a case in court, you are required within some number of days to file your defense, and you don't. So the other party will say, since the time has elapsed, can you give us judgment? Yes. So that judgment becomes ex parte. So as a judicial officer, I don't see a problem, because there's no way we would think that this gentleman was not served when he was not there to see the service. He relies on the documents. At times also some lawyers...
So when he calls in, that's the explanation?
I think they will be able to... they have got the toll-free numbers, because we give the explanations, but I'm happy he's in court. And the point has been clear from the beginning. Judicial Service Commission deals with the misconduct. We don't deal with the adjudication as a whole. where a decision can be
don't
remedied.
reverse or
We don't have
the
powers
judgments on
to say we cancel that decision.
Yes.
So you'll need another court to make a decision. So we can advise you on the procedure you can take. But where there's misconduct, that component is ripe for us to investigate and find out. Because he said, in only 20 days. So we would want to find out what exactly happened, what was on the ground. Because the officers also need to have that confidence that when they sit in judgment, they use the law they know, they look at the facts, and make an independent decision. So to us to intervene, we intervene when there's misconduct. Otherwise, the process has remedies. As God says, above everybody there's a leader. So you can always go up.
Okay, just 1 minute to go. Please help me.
Yes, and maybe somebody talked about pressure of NRM. I think what people
which is the executive indeed,
Yes.
and its functionaries.
Yes. Of course, you heard the Chief Justice what he was saying. I think the pressure that people think is that once you are appointed, the president is going to call you and say, I want this decision. You see, what happens when you become a judicial officer after taking the oath? People just don't know what exactly happens. I was there before. When you are a judicial officer, the president cannot pull you out. The process to pull you out is the most difficult in Uganda. If you are a judge, for example, they must show that you don't have the capacity, or you have misconducted yourself in a manner that you don't deserve to continue. And even if that is to happen, it goes through Judicial Service Commission, then it goes to the commission, the tribunal that has to be established. We haven't had many in Uganda. And to reach that level, it is a long, rigorous process. So the independence of this judicial officer, after getting the job, gives him that stamina to be able to make a decision without thinking, oh, I'm going to lose my job. And that's the whole question of independence. How do you appoint the judicial officers? When they are appointed, who guarantees their payment? Are we compromising their independence when we don't give them the tools? That should be an issue. And as the Chief Justice was speaking, we are moving in the direction to come to the full independence the way it is supposed to be. But we have elements, as the Chief Justice has said, there are elements that are pulling the system down. The government is saying, no, they should be able to provide for them. So you ask, who is that one? Who has a dissenting voice from even what the head of state is saying? So I think all of us, we should play our part so that we go to the direction that is desired. Separation of powers, independence of judiciary. Yes. And then we have justice flowing.
Thank you, Ronald, indeed. And on that note, just because of the restrictions of time, yes, it's a very beautiful discussion. Personally, I'm enhanced in understanding what the Judicial Service Commission, and I believe our public too. And thanks for, it's the Judicial Service Commission that actually has sponsored this discussion. And thanks to Ronald Sekaja for taking on the weight on your shoulders of the judicial system in Uganda. Well, indeed.
God is faithful. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, and see you soon, hopefully, within this year. And thanks to our viewers for keeping with us. I usually host very comprehensive discussions on any topic of public concern, either public policy or corporate governance issues. So please come talk to us, talk to our marketing team or our sales representatives or myself or our MD, and we'll have you come and take out an hour. We'll discuss a matter of concern that is at your heart as an organization, which is a company, as a government. And so let me say thanks to my production team, to our control room, to our sales team, and indeed to you who are our viewers. Please keep logged on to NTV, and thanks for keeping us as your #1 station. I'm Karagab Bowdens. Good night.